Hey guys, welcome back to the Kool-Aid Podcast. Welcome back to another week, another episode. Let me introduce my co-host Alex.
Hi guys, good to be back again. I'm excited for this episode.
All right. Great start to the weekend.
Great performance.
Great performance from Barca. And for on the schedule for the day, we're going to be talking about the post-match reaction to Real Sociedad game. And then we'll talk up a little bit about the Manchester City game that happened today. But thoughts on our performance against Real Sociedad?
Well, I mean, it was a good match, especially, from our perspective, especially in the second half. I saw in the first half we struggled a bit. It was good seeing Lewandowski get on the board early, with his goal. I think it was in minute 2 or something like that.
It was like in the first minute.
First minute, yeah. It's incredible. But, we did struggle defensively. I did see, unfortunately, Frankie de Jong struggle a bit. As we had discussed before, he was playing as a single pivot due to Busquets'
suspension. Yeah.
And, defensively, at times we struggled. There's no denying that. And we were punished for it, especially out in the counterattack, losing the ball in the midfield and in the attacking transition. But I did see a much better squad on the second half. They play phenomenally. I saw great plays from Dembele and Ansu Fati, most surprisingly. Overall, though, I believe the best player in that game, if not one of the best, was Pedri. He was class the entire time.
Pedri oozes class. In that game, we started with a 3-4-3, as we mentioned in previous episodes. Xavi wants to start experimenting with that formation, 3-4-3, having Koundé slot in as a right center back, having Araujo as the middle and Eric Garcia on the left, or Christensen, one of the two, and having wide wing backs. And he experimented with that on Sunday. Just it didn't work out. I felt like the players didn't know their roles. They didn't know where to be positioned. That's why sometimes you had Pedri as like the pivot sometimes, and Frankie de Jong was like pressing. I think it was like a very erratic performance from Frankie de Jong in that pivot role. I think Pedri was the one who was taking up that role. You saw in the match, he was taking deeper roles and distributing the ball. And another very exciting thing was that Jordi Alba was dropped, who had a poor game against Rayo Vallecano, and Alejandro Balde started that game. And you saw in the very first minute, he gave an explosive run, and he gave an assist to Lewandowski in the first minute. And that's very promising to see because, hey, if you don't play well in Barcelona, your spot shouldn't be guaranteed in the next game.
Yeah, and it's something that we've worried about before. Xavi has played with some of the older players, predominantly, Piqué, Sergio Busquets. Piqué isn't really going to play anytime soon.
He's a fifth choice center back.
Yeah, due to his age and also personal stuff that's happened before with the whole Shakira thing. But more importantly, it's good how you're saying that we are seeing those players be rotated. And Jordi Alba, it's no secret, he's never been a great player at defense, and he's shown it. He often goes up, great at crossing, great at overlapping, but then he forgets his duty coming back, and we got punished many times because of that, because Jordi Alba wasn't on defense when he needed to be. And personally, I think Balde is our best left back or left mid option right now that we could employ.
I think Balde is very exciting. I think he's still a little bit raw, but as soon as his general feel in possession and his ball distribution gets better, I think Alba is going to be dropped indefinitely.
Sure.
I think Balde is going to be starting every single game. I think Balde just needs to get those minutes under his belt.
For sure. And
I think that's
to digress a little from the game against the game on the weekend, if we look at the game today versus Manchester City, it was a great performance by him. He was making some great runs, some excellent passes, and he was exciting. He was what we needed on that left side. And defensively, yes, we referring to today's game, we got scored on. I think once from that position. Yeah, the Cancelo overlap that he squared to Palmer.
Cancelo. Yeah, it's just like there wasn't the support from the midfield or the winger on that side.
But
and Balde was basically a 2v1.
Overall, I thought he was excellent today. And going back to the game on the weekend, awesome performance by the team. And, one thing that I did notice is Xavi is realizing when to make substitutions. Like, he knows when to move players, because sometimes coaches think, he's made a couple mistakes, leave him in there for a little bit. And he's especially seeing this up front. He sees, hey, Rafinha isn't playing well, or Dembele isn't playing well, and whoever's on or off, he subs in.
Mm-hmm. No, and that's the added benefit of having squad depth.
Exactly.
Of having so many options in the bench, and being able to say, okay, Ferran Torres, who I was surprised started that game. Ferran Torres, who hasn't played anything during preseason, who's been relatively injured, and he trained. Xavi said he trained well during the week, and that's why he started. But I was surprised to see that Ferran Torres started. I was expecting to see either a combination of Dembele and Rafinha, or having Ansu Fati starting. But you clearly saw that Ferran Torres just lacks the match sharpness. I think that him and Lewandowski were stepping on each other's toes, because he wasn't necessarily like the out and out winger, just because like Balde was occupying that area.
Yeah,
he was like playing a little bit more centrally.
Yeah, and that's Lewandowski's area.
That's right. Lewandowski's area, and I think that's where they stepped toes. But it was great to see Xavi having so many options, and this is what we lacked last season. You saw how we just didn't have any options.
Yeah, we're just strengthening the team as a whole, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a shame, like seeing a player so talented like Ferran Torres not fitting in as he should. And we saw this in the Real Sociedad game, as you're saying.
Yeah.
Like, there were moments where you saw that lack of communication, lack of understanding between the two. And again, it's still very, very early on in the season, and there's a lot of new players in the squad and older players who are getting to play with each other and getting to understand the game, even though they might understand the system well already.
That system, that 3-4-3, which we started the game, once, as I mentioned previously, the players, they know their roles, so they know like where to be positioned. Like, hey, Dembele was that right wing. Are you gonna have him dropping in, defending? Because we were exposed. Like, the game in the first half, it could have gone either way. We could have gone into the second half losing or winning. It was like 50-50.
Yeah, and that's not something we like to see. Barca being such a dominating team on all sides, defense, offense, and predominantly the midfield. One thing that surprised me a little, though, was the usage of the three center backs. I know now he's been doing the 3-4-3.
Yeah.
But one thing that I've been noticing is the right center back tends to go a little bit outward, trying to fill in that right back part of the field, especially going forward. And that's something that I want to bring up, because we do play with wingers. We always have wingers. It's always been like that at Barca. But how do you think that's going to affect the game when we have a player like, let's say, Dembele, who doesn't track back? Because then wouldn't the person playing right mid then be forced to defend more, and then we have that gaps?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think if we're going to be playing in this formation, I don't believe that Dembele should be the one being asked to defend, because Dembele is not the best offensively.
Yeah, he's more of a free role type of player.
Exactly. I think this is where Jules Koundé comes in. Or like, hey, you have that defensive cover right there, and then you have Araujo partnering him, having speed and power, and with Koundé with the progressive ability that he has.
Yeah.
That right side, I think, is pretty much covered. But this is something that we have to see as soon as Koundé is registered and he's able to play games, just to see how Xavi molds his system. Because so far we played 2 games in the season so far, and Xavi is still tinkering, seeing like, hey, what's my best starting 11? What is the formula to go on into the season with?
Yeah, what's gonna win him games?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a good thing that we have all these options and all this confusion, because we can obviously, if a player, like we said before, we have an injury, or if a player isn't performing, we can switch it around. However, going back to that rhetorical question you asked about what's the best starting 11, personally, I would like to see just on defense, because up top it's pretty standard. It's going to be Ansu, Lewa, and Rafinha or Dembele, or maybe we rest Ansu and we start both the wingers. And in midfield, I think for the most part it would be Busquets, Pedri, Gavi, maybe the younger Kiesi play a little, or Pjanic as a sub. However, when it comes to defense, I think the best formula we have as of now, thinking of the classic 4-3-3 that we play. Although we do make the tactical configuration where we have 3 at the back and 4 up top, I think the best back 4 currently should be Balde left back, center back Araujo, the other center back Christensen, and right back Conde. The reason I say this is because I have noticed, well, Conde is a smaller player, height-wise. I mean, we'll be having a more classic 2 tall center backs. And aside from that, I feel like Conde is faster and his progressive game could be better. The progressive attack that he could bring into the game would be better. He's more agile, I think. I believe he's a better dribbler than Araujo. I haven't seen him dribble that well.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that could be done. He could go up, and he's already a defensive-minded player, so it wouldn't be an issue for him to track back and help. But, obviously Xavi knows best. He's the coach, and he's incredibly intelligent and incredibly talented. He's the one training them, so we'll see. But honestly, I think that would be a great defensive line, and one that wouldn't be too overzealous in attacking, keeping the balance, saying, well, we already got this many players up. There's no reason, because as we can see in the Real Sociedad game, where the only goal that Real Sociedad scored, right? It was a mistake, I believe, by Frankie de Jong.
Yeah, it was Frankie de Jong in that pivot role.
And then Isaac stole the ball, passed it to someone, and it was a pass on to him. So,
yeah.
Although, yes, it wasn't a classic counterattack where it came from their side of the field onward. We kind of
exactly. We made a mistake distributing the ball.
Right, but we noticed how our center backs. I believe that day the 2 starting center backs were it was Christensen and Garcia, no?
Yeah, it was, and then Araujo was
right back. Right, and we noticed that. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of Garcia, but I don't know. I feel like if you're injecting that speed and that physicality that Araujo brings as center back, plays like that could be stopped easier.
Yeah. But here's like the dilemma that Xavi has, because Eric Garcia, he is better on the ball than Araujo.
That's true.
He's a better passer. He's a better distributor. Just Araujo is better defensively. Like the way Xavi plays, Xavi wants defenders who are able to play with the ball and are comfortable with it. And so having Eric Garcia fits that profile. He may not be the best defensively, and this is where Xavi has to work together with Eric Garcia, but. That's why I think Xavi loves Eric Garcia so much, just because he's fantastic on the ball.
Yeah, no, he's a good passer, and obviously, being Barca, they're going to play tiki-taka, and you need that to play from the back. But still, I think Christensen does a fine job at that, and if needed, he could play at center back along. Like that's what I'm saying. I think it should be Christensen and Araujo to sort of help him out there and keep him more composed. But like you said, there's no denying in terms of physicality and defending, Araujo is.
Yeah.
I would say he's our best center back when it comes to defense. But like you said, defensively, when it comes to passing the ball from defense, he does struggle a bit. So it's only a matter of time till we see what the best starting 11 is. But personally, I think with having Conde right back, and going up front a little, maybe not making those overlaps that we see Sergio Roberto or Jordi Alba make, but seeing him maybe give support to the winger, it could be useful.
Yeah. But the players who made a good cameo, a good appearance, where it was Ansu Fati and Rafinha, both of them came on, or I believe around the 60th minute mark, around there.
Yeah, not that late into the game.
And they completely changed the game.
For sure.
You saw Ansu Fati giving a fantastic back heel for Ousmane Dembele. You saw him grab a goal as well. You saw Rafinha pressing high.
I believe he also assisted one of Lewandowski's goal, right?
Exactly. As much as Lewandowski is our key figure, we're going to see how much Ansu affects the team, because the talent of Ansu Fati, he's so clinical in front of goal. He's such an amazing talent.
Yeah, and
that if he's fit for the entire season, we are very we are in for a treat. And Ansu Fati is that type of player, just like Pedri, who's a fantastic talent, who's a gem.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it's a great thing we have all this talent. It's just hopefully he does stay healthy and he does keep contributing how he is to the team. You know, I like to see him, not too long from now, to be back to being a regular in the squad.
No, yeah. But overall, I think it was a very tough first half. I think Xavi is still working on the team, still getting like, hey, well, what's my formula? But we got the 3 points, and that's what matters. We need to get on the board, and that's the most important thing.
For sure. Now moving on to the game today. Well, what were your thoughts on the performance of the team as a whole? And just I know it was a friendly, so there's not as much emphasis put on what's going on. There were a lot of players that aren't normally in the squad playing, but what were your overall thoughts on the performance?
My overall thoughts was we actually gave a good performance in the first half. You saw Barcelona defend well, press well, distribute the ball well. There were some errors here and there. You saw an error from Iñaki Peña, which led to Manchester City's first goal. Julian Alvarez grabbing the rebound. You saw a couple mistakes from Frank de Jong, Cassie, even from Koundé distributing the ball.
Yeah.
But this is all just, I believe it's just lack of. This is the start of the season where we're getting up to match speed. On top of that, playing against Manchester City, you're obviously going to make these errors. But Barcelona fielded like a very strong 11, even though it was rotated. This is like a indicative of our squad depth. We rotated 9. We had 9 changes in total from the team that played in the weekend, and you look at that team and you're like, wow, these guys are all world beaters. You had Piqué, you had Jordi Alba, Koundé, Cassie coming in, Frankie de Jong, having Aubameyang, Ferran Torres, and Rafinha all starting. And it was fantastic. This was also like a good run out for these players, because some of these players aren't starters. They're out there to convince Xavi to say, hey, I'm fighting for that starting spot. Look at what I did today. So when the next game comes in the weekend, they're looking to be the ones to start.
Yeah, no, it was an interesting performance from some of the players. I saw Frankie de Jong's performance today. It wasn't one that I liked too much. He did score a goal, and it was a good team play, a good press by Gavi, who I thought had a marvelous game. But I keep seeing Frankie de Jong making these mistakes and losing the balls.
Yeah, it's not the Frankie that we know. Sometimes he's brilliant, but then you see like, hey, he's making some childish mistakes.
It's an issue, yeah. But I did see players that surprised me for the better, and I saw especially Memphis Depay, who I'm not the biggest fan of, and I know most Barca fans aren't either. But he had I think it's fair to say he had a good game. He scored a goal. He missed a couple of key chances, mainly the one that play between Gavi and Pjanic on the attack. But it is what it is. I think overall though he had a good few moments, and it wasn't a terrible performance from him. However, I do look at other players, such as, like we said, Frankie. Then we also see with Kiesi. It left a lot to be desired.
Yeah, I know. It was a mixed performance, because they had their brilliant moments, but then also at the same time they gave away some balls that they shouldn't have given away.
Yeah. Defensively, I also wanted to mention, I think we briefly touched on this a little bit, but I think we still see the issues that we were seeing before on the left side of the defense, where Jordi Alba were playing. I mentioned the goal that Cancelo squared to Palmer.
To Palmer. Mm-hmm.
And, I see that play over and over, and it just feels like there's not a good understanding between the left back and the center back there, because, well, Abder was fine. He was playing defense, but there's just, and I take back what I said, there's not a good communication between the left back and the left winger. There was just bad communication, because Ansu Fati was doing God knows what, not tracking back on the...
it was a mixed communication, because even though Ansu Fati is not one to track back tremendously, it should have been either the midfielder or Ansu Fati tracking back to help out. They just seeing that that overlapping run from Cancelo. It should have been, someone should have gone and helped them out in that situation. But overall, I believe the feelings from today's game were positive. You gave players who needed a run out. You gave minutes to Koundé, who's also coming back from an injury, and who hasn't had much of a preseason, and it was a positive game.
And we also got to see some players we haven't really seen that much before, mainly the goalkeepers. And I'll tell you right now, this is a game that we should have won. That last goal by City, that wasn't a penalty.
Yeah, it wasn't a penalty.
I'm not one to blame it on the referees. Yes, we should have scored more, but come on, that was a clear flop by Erling Haaland.
Yeah, it was like a slight touch, but it's not enough to derail you.
In any major league game that would not been called as a penalty. But be that as it may, no VAR, no need to get upset over that. Again, it was a friendly, and we know what would have happened otherwise.
And could this possibly be the last game of Aubameyang and Memphis Depay? You saw Aubameyang when he was being subbed off. You saw him give a little bit of a farewell, clapping all four parts of the stadium. Is this his final farewell? Because Chelsea is very close to agreeing a deal with Barcelona. I think it's being reported 22 million fixed plus 5 in variables.
Yeah, I mean, again, we've discussed this before. I think the deal is close. It might be a farewell. Yeah, it might be the last time we see him wearing the Barcelona badge. But again, I'm very thankful for what he gave us last year, for helping us make that comeback mid-season. It was a very difficult time for us, and we're still going through difficult times. We're still building a squad. Yes, we have the players, but we're still getting better. But he had a great service for us, and someone who not a lot of people had faith on, me being one of them. He proved us wrong, and he had a good career. I mean, a good season, and he's had a great career as a player. But hopefully it goes well for him in Chelsea, and hopefully he's able to get the minutes, and I'm sure he will. They don't really have a striker right now.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think Chelsea in their situation.
Yeah. As a Spurs fan, that's something I like seeing. But
seeing them after the performance against Leeds.
Yeah. It's mainly a defensive issue.
I know, but
their offense is very weak.
They're not creating that many chances
for sure.
Without recognized striker. How is his team gonna cope? And Chelsea, you saw Aubameyang's goal today. I recommend that you buy him up
for sure. It's a win-win at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's a win-win. It's gonna be a shame because I would like him to stay with the team. I would much rather prefer Memphis Depay to leave, even as much as I love both of these players.
Yeah. Memphis has done less for the squad. It's tough to say because he's also done a lot.
Yeah.
But and especially recently, he hasn't been performing.
It's because his position doesn't exist. It's that secondary.
He just doesn't fit into our current squad. Maybe when he was playing under Koeman, you could argue that it was a little different. Yes, he could play more, but it's time for him to go, and it's a shame, but it is what it is. And again, I'm also very thankful for him for what he helped us with in our darkest times. But his time is up, and I hope Juventus do get him. And I'm sure he'll play well for them. He's a very solid player, very versatile.
Hopefully both of these transfers go through. We could have Ferran Torres or Ansu Fati to take up that backup striker role. But it was from these two games, I thought it was a positive performance, especially today. It was a friendly though for a good cause to raise awareness for ALS. And we have a big game this weekend against Valladolid at home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm very excited for that game, and just looking forward to the team getting better, playing better, and having a stronger understanding of the game and of each other. There's just, like we said, it's still a team that's getting built. So just looking forward to a better performance and to see a stronger side this weekend.
All right, guys, that was it for our post-match reaction on the game against Real Sociedad last weekend and today's fantastic game against Manchester City. Leave your thoughts. Do you agree or disagree with anything that we said? You can also add in the comment section below. Subscribe, like, do all